Productive Dentist Academy podcast network.
Pre-show alert. This episode is only for doctors who are interested in applying their own passionate third level of why into compelling storytelling, into their marketing, into their communication plans so that patients say yes to care and you stop banging your head against a wall and hating marketing. If you're not interested in that, go ahead, go on to another podcast. But if you are interested in being more authentic, more you in your marketing, this is the episode for you. I have invited Matt Hutchings, expert videographer, visual storyteller, to discuss our previous episode with Dr. Gary Sanchez, which was finding out your own inner why and how to apply it into your marketing in a way that feels and looks natural and really represents who you are without you being nervous, without you feeling like you're stiff and it's not representing you. So that is what this episode is about. Let's dive in. In our last episode of Everyday Practices Dental Podcast, Dr. Gary Sanchez said, people don't know what they want because they don't know who they are. And once you discover your why, everything becomes clear. That particular episode was transformative for me personally because I have worked, I think, a lifetime on discovering people's why and what drives them and what makes them passionate. And what I've noticed over 2 decades of professional growth is that people who are able to not just live in their passion or their ikigai, if you're into Japanese culture, whatever it is, those people that can communicate it out are the ones that end up winning in their business and their life. Oftentimes they don't have to be the best clinician, but they do have to know how to communicate that message. And it's a little bit unfair because as dentists and dental teams, you become really proficient at the clinical side of the practice, and then you're also expected to be masters at communication on top of it, and master marketers and everything that goes along with it. So that is why I have invited Matt Hutchings to our podcast table today. Not only is he an expert videographer, tremendous storyteller, he also happens to be our podcast producer as well. So Matt, welcome to the show.
Hey Regan, thanks for having me today. I'm excited to be able to go through all this and show our listeners, a little bit of what I do behind the scenes, just to help share your guys' message with all the doctors and, all the fun stuff that you guys do.
I'm honored that you are putting yourself in front of the camera for once instead of behind the camera. I say this without any exaggeration. Your artistry is some of the best I've ever seen my entire career. The way that you're able to capture images, your photography, it is an art form, and to put video to it to boot, you are just a phenomenal storyteller, and you're really great at putting people at ease. And listeners, I wanted Matt to be on here with us today because we had this great episode with Gary Sanchez of the Y Institute. If you haven't listened to it yet, it's the one right before this. Go check it out. And he's worked with thousands of businesses over the years and helping them discover their why, because it makes it easier to market yourself if you know what's driving you kind of at that core level. And I wanted you to be able to see additional tangible examples that you can kind of put your eyes and your ears around and see what this looks like when you are marketing your practice. And Matt and the Phoenix Dental Agency team, they do this for a living. They are very great at storytelling, and part of our process is capturing the doctors, under current, if you will, the under driving why that pulls them forward. So Matt, can you kind of give our listeners a little bit of your history and why storytelling is exciting to you? Why do this? What drives you here?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just the ultimate challenge of trying to,
Really?
yeah, I mean, it's this it's this mix of things that you're trying to organize in a clear and concise way that people can connect to almost immediately. And that's tough because, you can think about video and go, oh, once you've seen it, a 30-second commercial, it's like art on a wall. You could be like, well, I could do that. But the conceptual piece of what it took, the hours to like mess that up over and over and over again and put it in a way to where I think that's the ultimate, like, where people, when they say that, it's like the ultimate, like, okay, we did a good job. If someone says they could do that, you've made it simple enough for people to connect, hear it, and then go, oh yeah, that looks easy. But they don't realize, the hours of behind the scene prep, meeting with the team, meeting with the either the doctors or whoever it is that you're trying to interview, meeting with those testimonials that are going to put themselves out there, who aren't actors, right? These are
Hmm.
just people who've been to the practice, who are nervous and want to do a good job because the doctor really did something that changed their life. So I think really it's a strategy challenge of organizing a story in a way, one that it hits the message on what the client is trying to get, but also, for someone who likes to be creative, it's got a little creative mix that just feels good at the end of the day. It looks good, it looks clean. And maybe people think, oh, there was something in there that just stuck with them. And on a 30-second spot, people see it so differently every time.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see what stuck and resonated with people. So I think it's just the challenge. It's fun.
That makes a lot of sense. Solving problems is a fun way to do it, and it's kind of a creative outlet to it also. So it's kind of a fun puzzle to work with. And you're absolutely right. There are a lot of moving pieces behind the scenes that make it a reality. One of the most powerful things I have found as a leader is the ability to trust the delegation process and realize that I shouldn't do it all on my own. So could you? Yes. Will the end result be better? Most likely 9 out of 10 times it won't be, but not only that, but you're going to kind of kill yourself in the process doing it. So to be able to find trusted partners that you can work with and be in collaboration with, I almost think of it like a dance, like you're dancing together to create this beautiful end result. And let's talk about the 30 seconds in marketing. So we know that I think 10 years or so, the human brain, it processed it, like got bored after 9.5 seconds, or it couldn't hold its attention for, like, it was like the span of a goldfish's memory. It was really, really short. And I think it's become even shorter than that. Our attention span is really at a premium. So I'm curious. Well, one, maybe let's start off with an example. So maybe show a video, a 30-second video of a client, a Phoenix Dental Agency's client, that kind of embodies this why philosophy of getting really clear on your own why as a practice to differentiate yourself and what that looks like in practice.
Well, let me preface one thing too. So 30-second spot, in this day and age of social media, think 30 seconds, is that overly traditional? What I mean by that is like, that's kind of TV-esque, right? Like that
Yeah.
still, why would you do something in a format like that? Well, now with like digital streaming services like Hulu and all of these other places where you can aggregate, your content into commercials, there's still a place for that traditional 30-second spot. And most of my career in marketing has been working with local entrepreneurs. So
Hmm.
even though, the last 7 years has been in dentistry, a lot of it has been in that local entrepreneur market. So there is still a place, when you see these high budgets through like a Nike or, these places where when you see the commercial at the end of the day, you really don't know what they were selling.
Yeah.
Right. Some of these people, like, they've reached an echelon of, either being a lifestyle brand, but they've invested billions of dollars to make that, that logo stripe, the Nike so recognizable. It's
Well,
been,
to penetrate the market too, to hit it with enough frequency over time. I'm happy that you called that out.
yeah. So
That
sure.
takes
So
millions, if not billions of dollars over time.
So will you as a dental practice ever reach that? I mean, we would love to say that could happen, but most likely it's not going to happen. So, so some of the things that we have to do is really just get a good message forward that speaks to who you are, presents the problem, and then invites that person in at the end of the day, as we start to move them through that trust funnel, to ultimately become a patient. So the first part of this is, think of this as a 30-second spot. This still could be shown in social media, but where this will mainly sit is in some of those streaming services. And what's been really crazy over the last 10 years, as I kind of go in a different direction, in the last 10 years, is cable was so traditional. You had the TV, you had the box, but
Hmm.
now with all of the streaming services, it almost felt like everything was going to go back to a computer and a phone, but then the TVs became smart, and now people are watching YouTube and all of these other streaming services like everyone watched
Yeah.
traditional TV. 10 years ago. So we're now back into our TVs, but we're just using them a little bit different. They've gotten smarter. And so we still develop 30-second spots to reach that demographic.
Doctor, are you tired of repeating yourself with your team over and over again, and yet you still see treatment walk out the door? If so, you're not alone. The Clinical Calibration Institute, powered by Productive Dentist Academy, is an all-new online platform that unites your team around your philosophy of care, so patients can say yes with confidence and you grow with purpose. Including online curriculum with world-class faculty, monthly live mastermind sessions for each department within your practice, and an online private community, this is your home to grow. Head over to clinicalcalibration.com today to join every member of your team for one very low monthly membership fee. That's clinicalcalibration.com.
And we're able to target, instead of just saying, play a commercial, on like a cartoon station or, a news station. We now, in some of these streaming services, can say, feed it to a demographic that's in this age, in this area, so we can get real precise. And then
You really can. Like yes, you really, really. I was went to the Possible event, which is a big chief marketing officer event. It's got the biggest global brands, chief marketing officers there, like Unilever was there, and that was the big topic, was targeting so microscopically down to the neighborhood and the interests and demographics in that specific neighborhood, and then playing them ads on their streaming services that were specific to them. And I like when I'm watching a show and I have an ad pop up, it'll even give me how many seconds that ad is. So it'll give me the little rundown of how many seconds. And I feel like I see a very select few advertisements, whereas before it was just sort of all over the board.
yeah, and so I mean, it's nice as a marketer to have all of these options, but also becomes very tough because
Hmm.
now that's part of that strategy, right? Like, we've created this thing, where is it going to go? So, when you think video and all of the components that go to it, that initial discovery and the targeting and all that we do in the very beginning to create what is 30 seconds where someone can say, oh, I could do that, but it's all of the things on the back.
Yeah.
So, what we're going to watch here is just a 30-second spot. The fun part about this is working with entrepreneurs. We don't have big budgets for actors. We don't have,
Yeah.
like, that have gone to acting school. Generally we have someone in the practice that's just, likes the doctor, and they're super
Yep.
motivated because the doctor's been real kind to them. So they're like, I'll get in front of the camera for you, or, a testimonial. And a lot of the prep work, yes, we try to prep, but also, this isn't their day job. So there's a lot of pieces that go into this to try to make this as high production as possible and nice, and the message get through. So
Yeah,
that's
but
also where
and
we're
the
from.
authenticity, I would not want, unless it's like Matthew McConaughey, like I'd probably hire him. But other than that, no, I don't want to see an actor. I want to see real, authentic patients, authentic team. Like that make when I remember when I was signing up for my primary care, I went to their website and I scrolled down and they had a YouTube video embedded, and it was like a testimonial video, and on the freeze frame was a woman colleague that I knew and I really respected. And I'll tell you, if you could have looked inside my brain, the amount of trust that was being built, and I hadn't even hit play yet, but I recognized her and I was like, well, if she's going here, I'm going to have a good experience. So I think the authenticity in that it works to the advantage of not having, a gigantic budget.
Yeah, and what's also too is, again, being a local entrepreneur, most of your staff most likely lives locally.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool way to get them incorporated into some of the marketing that you're doing and the materials and the videos. But also too, like, they're putting themselves out there where people are going to see them, right? So there's that nervousness of, them wanting to look good, you trying to make them look good. This is going to be locally aired everywhere. So it feels good on our end when we get really great feedback saying, like, everyone notices me on TV, they
Hmm.
think it's really great. So this was one of their team members. Um, so this was 30 seconds, and it actually took us probably over an hour to film.
Yeah,
So
that makes sense.
in 30 seconds, we've got a very small window of opportunity to get that message through. So generally about, let's say, 14 seconds, where she's got to get those lines hit. And then at the end, we end it with an end tag. The end tag is an invitation to take action. So that story's got to take place, and it can't be a long ramble like we're just going through and having a conversation now, because we'll hit that 30-second marker, and then, that ad's it'll clear out. So we had to make sure she hit all of her spots. You know, she was practiced before, but once that camera comes on, right? Like, again, not professional. So she did an amazing job. It was fun to do this with them. We do it time and time. It's to try to get those nerves down, and then enter, give them a great result at the end. So I'll share this first 30-second one. And one of the things I also want to preface too is we'll go into this, but when we go over it, Reagan, you and I will discuss some of the language that was used. This wasn't just written by the marketing side. This was language that was developed through them and their discovery and a lot of the work that you and we do personally at PDA. All right, is my screen sharing?
Mhm.
Many of our patients come to us feeling anxious or embarrassed. They've put off dental care for years, worried about pain, judgment, or cost. At Barra Family Dentistry, we meet you where you are. No judgment, just compassionate care and the latest technology to make treatment easier than you ever expected. With a customized plan and flexible financing, we make great dental care accessible so you can finally take that first step. Call us today or schedule online and let's walk through it together.
All right. So there was a key word out there, Reagan, that was used when they were speaking to the patient. I'm not sure if you caught it. Did you catch which one that was?
I caught, well, actually, I hung up on compassionate and then flexible payment options. Those were as I watched it through, those things really caught my eye. The patient looked so endearing and so sweet, and it made me feel comfortable. I also heard no judgment. That came up a lot. Like, I caught that a couple of times, and seeing it with the woman made me think, made me feel more relaxed. Like, okay, I can probably bring them whatever my dental challenge is, and they're probably going to make me not feel bad about it.
Yeah. So actually, you caught basically the three main words that practice was wanting to.
For real?
Yeah, initially,
Yay.
when someone hears about them through their brand scripts, they wanted
Mhm.
to be judgment free. You know, they know that their patients have been through a lot, and they work with a lot of patients that have told them that felt like they were either felt like they were being judged, with their teeth,
Mhm.
around their sphere of influence with people that are around them, or when they would go into other practices, they didn't get the vibe that, because they lacked on their dental care, they got that, the other doctors were either the other practices were either, trying to just move them through. It just felt like they were being judged. So for them, it was super important that they are a judgment-free practice. Um, and so one of the things that I benefit from at PDA is there would be a discovery if PDA wasn't as large as we were, there would be a discovery on my part where I would sort
Right.
of ask them through a series of questions through the discovery. Because what you don't want in your commercials or your ads or your reels or your social media pieces, it's just some marketing consultant that, came up with some keywords that don't resonate through who you are. So
Mhm.
one of the things I want to go over with you, because you actually work that document that gets handed to me as I
Mhm.
then start to formulate. So, maybe can you tell a little about how you go through that discovery, and then I'll
Oh,
talk about how
absolutely.
I pulled it through into the spots.
I'm particularly passionate about the interview. So, surprise listeners, I interview clients as well as interviewing for podcasting as well. I'm kind of obsessed with it because it one people are I have not yet met a dentist that is like really excited to do any sort of filming of any kind, and I'm also don't typically meet a dentist that is excited about really putting themselves out there. They typically want their work to show, and they would prefer to be kind of behind the scenes. And something that I am very happy to do is put people at ease so that I can understand what really matters to them. So I loved Gary's Why Institute because he has a discovery process that he takes people through that they can fill out on their own to discover their own personal why. That's one piece of the puzzle that's really important. So, for example, like the non-judgment to me, if I ran them through the Why Institute, my guess, this is a huge assumption, but my guess that doctor would probably have a better way as being one of their particular whys. So because they know that they can deliver dentistry in a way that feels judgment free. They know that there's a better way to do it. So my process that I've done for years when I sit down and interview a practice is we really walk through the stage from a patient's perspective of their transformational hero's journey. Uh, doctor, if you're listening right now, you were not the hero of the story. You are the guide, and telling great videography stories or great marketing collateral that goes out, it really does a wonderful job of positioning you as the guide and not the hero to it. So I actually, in that video, for example, I focused on more of the patient and less on the doctor talking, or the doctor, being seen, and the team member talking, because I was more focused on the patient. And that's kind of the goal. So I walk them through a discovery process that does talk about what's important to them, but I do it through the lens of the actual patient. And so it helps the doctor take themselves out. So if I have advice for you right now and you're listening and you want to apply this to your marketing, I would say walk through the experience and write out what that person is feeling and thinking and where they want to go. And then ask yourself, how am I coming alongside them and helping them achieve this? So that kind of puts people at ease. So we go through this process together, and we create what is called a brand script. When we have all sorts of, it's a massive thing that comes from it, right? We have a tagline, an elevator pitch, we have your key characteristics, we have a bunch of different elements that come from it. Once that's completed, then that gets hand off to our creative team as the next step. So working with the team is so amazing this way. So you, Matt, would get this document and you would know what's important to them. You would know, so in this practice, maybe a key characteristic is non-judgment, so no judgment. And you take that information and then you start to do your prep on your side of things for when you travel out and start doing the video shoot with them.
Yeah. And so as that person or the prospective patient, as they're walking through their journey of that discovery of like, is this a practice I want to go through? We may hit them with different marketing videos other than that 30 seconds, but let's, if we just follow that through. So we talked about the no judgment. So let's say they enter in through, they see that first 30 seconds, right? We've already developed their brand script. So we know that no judgment, we know some of these um, those keywords that we pulled out in the discovery are now making it into the spots. Well, now, where would you think, so then from there, where would you think that patient's going to go once they've seen a 30-second spot? Like, where would they potentially be ending up next?
I would go to the website.
Okay. So now you're walking your way through that journey now on the
Yep.
website, right? And there's all these connections that we want to make along the way. In your brand script, make sure all of these connections are anchored consistently, meaning the language, the personality, the people that we're looking to target, right? We wouldn't want a 30-second spot that felt, this way, and then you get onto a website and then the messaging's completely different, right? There would be a drop off in that person's experience, right? Like where the patient now is starting to lose um, small pieces of trust, right? You talk about that a lot in your presentations. So how we continue that trust through the journey is then we interview some of the testimonials, right? And so the testimonials are still framed off of that original framework that you do in the brand script. What I do is I then create a series of questions where I don't want scripted material from a testimonial.
Right.
And remember, we talked about that these aren't actors or actresses. So our goal is to get authentically them, but frame it in a way that the story's clear and complete and aligns with the type of patient they are, because the doctor likes this type of patient. So we want to find other people like this person and then invite them into the practice by creating messaging that's similar to them. So the next part that we would do is a testimonial. Can I show you that and see how it pulls together?
You can. I will. I want to add one note to the other video before we move on, and that
Yeah.
is the the talent that you have to ask questions that pull those different, brand attributes out is crazy to me, because I've done video shoots uh to get different types of testimonials and different information, and it is hard. It is not, to me, it's not that easy. You have to be skilled at knowing how to put together a great story. And so I don't want to go over even the music, the way that it's shot, the lighting, like it is like a little mini movie in and of itself. And so there's a lot of different elements that you are taking into account as you're shooting it. And I am curious, before we go to the testimonial video, what is your process for that? Like you get to the practice and you know, okay, compassion and non-judgment are two of their important attributes, and flexible financing is like the data tactical piece that'll help people say yes to care. Like, what is your process to setting that up so that it looks authentic, but also really professional and beautiful and cinematic? It's the cinema part of it that just blows me away.
Yeah, and that's, I would say, working in this level of videography that we do at PDA, I would say it's probably one of the toughest because we're not on a studio, we're not on a
Hmm.
set, we're not working with quote professionals
Right.
that are, trained in doing this. We're trained in there and to capture, but the staff and the team, right? They're generally, they're just excited to take care of patients, and now a crew's coming in and everyone's like gets like this. So
Well, see, and I have recorded people and I see them still like this, like afterwards, and I think, shoot, I can't use this because they're still nervous and they're not, they're coming off a little bit stiff, but you have this innate ability to put people at ease and help them get comfortable. And I think I heard you a little bit say, I talked to them for a while to get them comfortable. So is that one of your tricks, like, or like piece of advice that you can give to someone who's maybe making their own video even? Is it, do you just talk for a while until you naturally your shoulders start to drop and more of your natural cadence comes out?
yeah, and I think you do it. You may not even know you did it. Like when we started the podcast, like we just had a general conversation and it's structural,
Mhm.
right? But then as the structure got looser and then we got comfortable and we started to flow,
Mhm.
it was like, all right, we found our vein. Like I was like,
Hit record, let's go.
I'm gonna turn off my AC and like let's go so it's not picking up on on the mic. And then we went.
Right.
One of the first things that I do when I get in the practice, like if I came in all business, I come in and I look professional. If I came in all business and tight, people are going to start getting business and tight, right? They're like, oh,
Mhm.
So there's a balance between professionalism, being loose, and getting people to start to act like themselves throughout the day. So it's acting, laughing with them, telling them jokes, maybe just having the camera in my hand, but then walking around without taking pictures. So then when the camera is there, it's subconsciously, it's not there to them, right? It's just me
That
and
makes
who's in the
sense.
room.
They're just used to it being there.
Yeah, so I spend, that first, I try to get there early. I scope out, I've seen pictures, but I haven't been in there yet. And dental practices are tough because they're long and narrow and they're
Mhm.
operatory. So it gets difficult to film in there because you don't get the angles, it's a hallway and then a door, right? Like, so what we see, because we can move our head on a swivel, you can't necessarily get that full perspective when you're on a camera. So, you're just looking for angles, you're looking for where you could potentially shoot. Generally it's going to be in their the first room when you come in, the I'm sorry, I'm forgetting it.
The reception, the
The
welcome?
reception, yeah, the
Yeah.
reception office when you first come in, because that's usually the biggest room in the
Right.
practice. So it's scoping that out. But I personally go through and I try to talk to everyone and say
Mhm.
hello to them and then kind of laugh with them and be there. And then naturally I'll gravitate to some people that, you can tell they're having a good time. So then you can stick
They're
with
not
them. But
hiding in
now,
the break room.
yeah, now they're having fun, and now people that know them are like, okay, Matt's having fun with them. Like maybe I'll come join. What are they laughing about? And as it starts to build up, generally at the end of the day, I get like if I'm there 2 days, I get it feels like you've been a team, like you've been with us this
Mhm.
whole time. And that's usually the goal, right? Is to get them to feel so comfortable that I've always been there. And then it's hard because then I just leave like as if it was, that's hard for me because now I'm leaving and I've created all these, fun experiences with them. So, it's come in, it's kind of scope out the lay of the land, see how
Mhm.
everything's going to look, break the ice with everyone, get them feeling comfortable and confident. Small little tricks. I carry the camera around. Um, and then, we've got a great team that'll come in while I'm doing that, is either setting up where I want them to get the locations. So they're getting gear and lights, and so when you see that spot, there's generally two cameras that are running at the same time. There's 3 or 4 lights that are over and lighting everything up to make it real soft and clean. There's a mic that's sitting right above their head, so we get good audio. And generally these practices are open. So like not only the chaos of what's like trying to be done, and when I say chaos, like no matter what, if we were to come into your practice is designed for dentistry, not a video
Mhm.
crew to be there. So there is going to be, you know, a little bit of friction in your day to day. Not a bad friction. It's just different than what you were designed to do. And we try to work around that. But also practice is live. There's drilling and sucking going on in the background. And like
Right.
we're working in between. And then you try to let the staff know. And, now they're laughing in the background. And the one person who like finally gets the good line, it got killed because, someone slammed the door, so there's so many moving parts that are happening in that where we're trying to capture so much because this is a big investment for our doctors.
Mhm.
We're trying to get as much as we can in there so we don't miss out on anything for them. And that's part of that puzzle, like where I talked about that strategy and it's not only strategy in creating the video, it's the strategy of being there. It's the strategy of the moving pieces. It's the strategy of if a testimonial doesn't show up, like what are we doing on the spot to fill
Mhm.
that? Um, so, it's a lot of fun in that strategy. So my goal is really just to get people calm, ease, think of me as like a producer behind the scenes. And then once they've established that trust in me, I work through the interviews with them. And one of the things that I always have to be aware of is when I'm interviewing people, you can see either the stress or the pressure start to build on them, meaning
Mhm.
like where they're trying to either remember lines or, they feel like they're not doing because they have no perspective. So maybe they feel like they're not hitting it, but they really are. So
Mhm.
it's in between some of those is just reassuring them, hey, you're doing a good job. Like this is great. Keep that. I love what you did there, or, let's dig a little bit deeper. And there's some times where in the interviews, I'll even kind of just stop out of the questions and I'll have gone through all of my questions and then they think that it's done. And then now, once they think it's over, I know what all the questions are and we're still rolling. And then I'll be like, well, tell me about that. So they think they're done. Now the pressure's off.
Oh,
Now we're
there's your
into,
secret. There's your secret. That's
now we're into
brilliant.
interviewing and I've got them. And so now I know the structure and subconsciously they know the structure because they went through the questions with me.
Mhm.
But now I'm coming back and there's that, like when I used to do sales, when an objection comes and when someone says, send me an email, it was always like, yeah, I'll send you an email. No problem. What's that email? Now
Mhm.
they think the sale is over. The question is done. They just send me an email. But then I would roll into other things. So it's the same kind of tactic of, walk through it. They're like, okay, I'm done. And I was like, and then I would go, I really loved what you said here. Can you just tell me a little bit more about that? And we're still rolling and we'll catch it.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's really beautiful. One of my favorite things about testimonials is so many people go to reviews. Like I'm a huge review girl. I will go and look at the reviews and read the reviews carefully. And there are words that your patients will use that are specific. It's specific to your region. It's specific to the generation. It's specific to even the type of demographic and service that you want to provide, and nothing can compare to that. And I think the other thing that sits with testimonials for me that is so important is so many doctors that I know I work with, you work with, they are really high performing and they're very hard on themselves. And I don't know, even if you're a middle of the road doctor, whatever. I don't know how many times we stop and we look back at how far we've come or what we've done and remind ourselves that what we're doing is changing lives and that it's really well received. So, so instead of just staying on the treadmill or keep out producing ourselves, there is a lot of power for ourselves, not just for the material that it produces to attract new patients, but to remind ourselves that what we're doing really does make a big difference. And I think it's incredible to have a patient say, I will give a testimonial and sit down with you. So I'd love to, is it for Dr. Barras' office or is it a different
Yeah,
practice
so we're gonna
that you're going
keep
to show?
pulling through. Well, yeah, we'll pull through.
Okay.
So we did that 30 seconds. You'll see someone on there that was in the 30 seconds. She was on
Okay.
there. And then we'll look at to see if it's just some of the language, like you talked about reviews there for a second, right? So
Mm-hmm.
part of in that discovery, I think you go through and you review their reviews, so you see
Mm-hmm.
what people are saying, right? So that ends up in there. So then we talked about that 30 seconds, like judgment free. Now I've framed questions in a way that I would think, through my pre-interviews that I've done with, to develop this, if judgment free and these components are important to the practice, does that resonate with the person that we're about to interview, right? So when I do the questions, I don't ask them to give me a line. That's not authentic, and that's just us now feeding someone to say this. Um, which could be good, but like that's cheating. That's not really, that's
Right,
not
you want it to be authentic. You don't want
yeah,
to
that's not
you
that.
really don't want it scripted.
No, so the script is in initially some of those in the 30 seconds, but now they've made the discovery and they're on the site. Like we want to know as a patient, we want to know what your experiences are and does it align with my core values and should I take the next step to schedule, right? So I'm still thinking if I should schedule or not at this point. So I'll share the screen now. I'm going to show a video of now from just the testimonial perspective, right? So now we've done the pre-interview, meaning I've got all the questions. We're there. We're going to move through. And then this is what comes out in one of our testimonials.
I'm Susan Livingston, and I'm from Lafayette, Louisiana. I first came to Bara Dentistry in 2009. I have had issues with my teeth since birth, probably. Dentistry has always been in my life. I needed someone trustworthy, dependable, and qualified. It's a pleasure now to walk into Dr. Bara's office. No anxiety whatsoever, and a pleasant surrounding with professional services. So the staff is great. After I had all of my crowns in place, top and bottom, a mirror was handed to me to look. And the pleasure of that first smile is pretty indescribable. It's a new experience. You've been given a life-changing experience that carries over. My confidence has really been boosted, and that's so important in life. It lets you be who you are on the inside, and that's priceless. My name is Susan. I'm a patient at Bara's Family Dentistry. I love my smile.
That's beautiful. There's so much to be said for matching your outside matching your inside. And I know a lot of dentists do target especially anyone who's in a transition in their life, so whatever age they are, but maybe they're in some sort of age transitionary thing, and it's difficult. It's difficult and challenging to see yourself age, and you and I talk about it all the time, not a lot, but we do talk about it, like, oh, okay, I'm starting to get the crow's feet here, and this is happening, and yeah, and we want, we know who we are on the inside, but matching that to be on the outside is a really big deal that I don't know that a lot of people address on a day-to-day basis. It just kind of exists. And she just gave a really beautiful story. Like she got me excited about that by explaining it, in that context of what they were able to do for her.
Yeah, and what's awesome about that is like so in that framework, right? We're able to go through and ask those questions and pull all that out. Um, but as a producer, right, like there is a world of like we're producing a scene, right? So her story is initially interviewed, so they're there, they do the interview. But to make it so the patient as they're watching it, it's no fun to just watch a face talking. It's nice, we get to see that. But what we
Mm-hmm.
like to do is then based on that person's story, then when she talks about, a mirror was handed to me in the conversation, we're literally recreating moments like that, like on the fly based on what came out, and then now producing
Oh,
that in the
that's how that
process.
happens.
Yeah, so so again, this is not a scripted conversation
Yeah.
that came out. I knew generally I'm getting that journey from start to finish, and there's things
Mm-hmm.
that I want to make sure that she emphasizes as we talk about her story, right? I'm guiding that, but I'm letting her talk. And what comes out in those sections are authentically her, right? Like it wasn't a say it like this for me. I don't go back and be like, oh, emphasize this. So I'm just opening the door for her to speak and I give them that moment and hopefully they feel comfortable and confident and they share it. And then afterwards, that's about 30 or 40 minutes with them going through that. Then we go through and we create all of those little touch points in those scenes that were talked about, right? The staff was great. They're always smiling, right? We were able to cut to something where the staff is there smiling, I was handed a mirror. She's got the mirror. She's looking at herself. So all of those moments are, like I said, there's so much that gets compiled into that day and into that, the testimonial. We have about an hour and a half to shoot that. We're moving, running and gunning and getting as much as we can.
But the end result doesn't look running and gunning, doesn't look rushed, doesn't look forced. It feels comfortable and it's paced really well. I would love to talk about the cadence of it. I have never had this conversation with you, and now I know how you make it cinematic. That is brilliant. So you put them at ease, you interview them, and you set up these shots. But the 30 seconds felt very relaxed. It did not feel forced at all. How do you pace? Like, do you even make tweaks to how fast they're talking or slow they're talking in editing, or do you just kind of go at their pace, whatever their energy is? Walk me through that.
So the 30 seconds is tough, right? So those are two different
Yeah.
parts, right? So the testimonial, if that's a minute 20 or a minute 30, that's okay because there's no real time constraint on that. That's someone who's on the website looking at it. That 30 seconds, we've got markers that we have to hit. So when I build out the questions and script that, I'll do a general read through at like my pace to go, okay, I'm there. And when it's built, you'll see that in that 30 seconds, the camera will cut. So it's not one rolling scene. So what I'll do is I'll have it built in chunks, in basically chapters, you could say, right? Like I'll have her or the person memorize just that first sentence and I get a good clean read to that. And then I can hop to the second camera, which zooms in a little bit. In our mind, there's no disconnect and change. It just went to another topic. And so there the camera cuts in. And so as long as we kind of follow that and we get good, clean, not slow reads on that, those pauses in between, like we can shorten those up or lengthen them out. And it gives us a little bit of padding or a little bit of room to speed it up or slow it down. As long as we stick close to the cadence that's needed, in that initial read. So, and I try to time while I'm there. So I gotta like if I'm within, 18 seconds, I know we can cut it down, remove it, and
Hmm.
got it.
Wow. I cheated and I just went over and Googled the Barra family dentistry to kind of see what kind of reviews did they get and are they matching up with what she said and then, what that initial ad was too of making you, feeling compassionate and being non-judgmental. And right away they have well over 600 five-star reviews. So they're doing a great job on their reviews. But it's really the first one that was just 4 days ago. The ending sentence, I truly had a great time laughing with all of the staff. So you've brought up laughing multiple times. So my assumption is at that shoot, they were laughing and that's reflected just in a review that happened 4 days ago. And another one says they make you feel completely comfortable. So obviously they are good at reducing your nerves and helping you. People have typed all in caps, amazing with lots of exclamation. And it was the best experience I've ever had at a dentist office. The staff is very kind and understanding. So if you're listening right now, go to, your own reviews and start to pay attention to the words that people are using to describe you because that is your culture and that is your brand. You can't really dictate what it's going to be. It's going to be what your patients tell you it is. And so I think connecting your why with your brand story and then telling that story that feels authentic, you have all of this homework behind you, Matt, and all of this research that helps you guide the conversation without scripting it.
Yeah, and so that's just one part of the day, right? So that's one testimonial. So when we go through these, generally there's a strategy that's been built out. So a practice has particular types of patients that they want to serve, right? So the practice is either specialized or maybe the doctor's been in dentistry for a long time. And, part of what they want to do is if there's this one patient that exists, and if I could get that person, once or twice a year and we can market to them and it just makes me happy as a person, right? Like, can we do something that's built around that type of, demographic? So the testimonials, right? I might not resonate with her that was on the screen, but there's another testimonial that's a husband
Right.
and wife and their children, right? So there's their story. So everyone has a story in a window that's built for. Think about those testimonials are invites to your practice, right? I'm showing them to you. Does that align with me personally? I like the story that I've seen, right? I went online, I saw either the reviews, I saw that 30-second ad, all these little touch points. Now I see this testimonial. Naturally, the next thing, if I'm in that discovery phase, is most likely I'm either going to look around on the site or I'm going to take action and I'm going to make a call, right? And we hope that we do enough good enough job capturing authentically who you are. So now when the patient comes through the door, you maintain the story that you've been telling, right? So if the patients are talking about, when I come through the door and the staff is always smiling, right? You better have a team of staff that's always smiling, because that person has kind of built this expectation in their head that this is why I committed to come this way, right? So all of those little subconscious cues that they connected to, I hope as a storyteller, I tell that in a way because it was authentically you, and then it just maintains, with all of the great things that they've done and built, over the years. I just got to show it for them, which is fun and exciting, and I got to, when I say chaos, I got to come in and create a little chaos of fun, to share their story. Because you talked about dentistry. Dentistry, there's in every community there's multiple pillars, and doctors happen to be in the pillar of health in their community, and that's what's great for us is there are four walls, a lot of amazing things that happen for them. But generally it's hard for them to get that story beyond their four walls. So, by capturing these moments and then sharing them, that's what gets really exciting, I think, for all of us, and me too.
One of the things that I know, can often make you hesitant or nervous, especially with shooting video in the practice, is one, it's not the cheapest of advertising. It is an investment that you want to make. And and so and you might, so if you decide to run the practice while you're shooting, or do you shut it down, what prep work's involved in. And so, for example, I absolutely love interviewing a guest that has a lot of knowledge, because I can take that one podcast episode and I can turn it into a white paper. I can turn it into an article. I can make social media posts out of it. I can take it and I can diversify that message out to different channels. And so one, say, 30-minute interview can get me a lot of channel distribution and traction in different mediums. How do you apply, like, how would you apply that to going in and doing video shoots? I know, for example, you often do photography with it, which is what I drool over all the time, is these absolutely gorgeous shots that you get, ones of like candid in-office images. Maybe it's a doctor with their family, or maybe even the headshots you do are beautiful. So I know, like, you're there to video shoot, but you also end up doing this as well. Could they take the audio from the video and like turn it into a radio script, or what are some ways that they can expand and get the most out of doing a video shoot with someone?
Well, with us, one of the things I personally give them afterwards is an editorial calendar of how to apply everything that's been done. So there's already been a strategy of where their marketing consultant is going to put. So the testimonial, right? That testimonial, if it's about implants, like it's going to be on the implant page. If I'm in discovery and I want to know what you do on implants, right? Yeah, I want the technical or this, the content copy, but there also should be the video there. So all of those get placed in the appropriate place on the site. They're also shared through social media and things like that. But also too, depending on, the level of service that they're working with me on, is that editorial calendar could be anywhere from 6 months to 12 months of all of the pictures that I took, basically kind of framing the scene of, like, go grab a picture of Dr. X, working with patients. Here's a caption. So it gives it in a way that has simplified it to where, I still want them to authentically change it to be them based on
Hmm.
that scenario, but I give them enough, let's just say like 85% complete, and then they can go in and customize, throughout the year based on the scenario or the things that are happening in the practice. So, again, I don't want to be the 100% the words for you, like it shouldn't be that way, but knowing that you're a, dental practice and a team and other things that are going on, why not leverage some of the experience we have, make it easier for them. So that's one of the things that we provide too, uh, which is nice. You don't just now have this big bright shiny thing and go, well, what do I do with it? Now your shoulders are back stuck up and you don't know what to do,
Right.
right? Like, so
If you have video already in your practice, if you haven't taken the transcript, that's something that you could certainly do. There are a lot of tools out there where you can upload your video and it'll transcribe for you as well. And you could turn it into, shorter social media clips, or like I said, you could give it to your marketing team and they could make blog posts out of it. They could use specific, insert some keywords. And so I think there is a lot of different ways to get mileage out of one particular shoot. So it can go a long way.
Yeah,
Matt, I appreciate all of the hour that you've spent with us talking
yeah.
about this. And is there anything that we didn't cover that you really wish that we had covered that you want people to know about how to take your why, take your core beliefs, and turn it into a compelling story?
Well, what I would say is, I already kind of prefaced in the beginning where once you see something, you think, oh, I can do that. Just challenge yourself, like, do it. I want you to say, I can already do that. Like, we today have our phones and we've got so much technology in our hands. What'll only make you better is just practicing. Get it as part of your practice, pull your phones out, incorporate some of what you've seen today, try it. There is no reason why you shouldn't be able to produce some authentic content yourself. But also too, there's a very big reason why it should align with some of these, bigger produce packages that'll last you, a year or two with a lot of marketing collateral. So, what I'd say in the end of the day is, get out there and start producing some, practice, figure out your voice and your why. The better you do this, the better you'll get at even presenting to patients, right? Just putting yourself out there. So, you know, um, if any of this interests you, or you like this, or you want to know more about what it looks like behind the scenes, or you just want to see some of these videos, we've got, reach out to us. We can share, we can share them with you. We can share some of the pictures. And also too, at the end of the day, just don't be afraid to get out there and just try to produce it yourself. Like, and we can support you in that and kind of walk you through, what those steps would look like, and then how we would transition, to maybe something that's a bigger production.
What is the best way for people to get in contact with you? If they have a question or they want to work with you, what do they do?
They could just reach out to my personal work email at Matt at Productive Dentist.
MATT.
MATT, yep, at productivedentist.com. And if you got any questions, or you want to get into, a discovery, or, just you just want to know more about how this works and see if it's right for you, I'd be happy to schedule a discovery meeting with you. And that's where we could dig down into the why component, help you discover that. Or maybe you already have, and you have a really good idea of what that why is, and now you're just looking to leverage what that is and put it in a format to expand out your reach. I can help you with that too.
Well, thank you, Matt. Thanks for being on the show. Thank you for listening to another episode of Everyday Practices Podcast. It would mean the world if you can help spread the word by sharing this episode with a fellow dentist, and leave us a review on iTunes or Spotify. Do you have an extraordinary story you'd like to share, or feedback on how we can make this podcast even more awesome? Drop us an email at podcast@productivedentist.com. And don't forget to check out our other podcasts from Productive Dentist Academy at productivedentist.com/podcasts. See you next week.